What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the After Show. Whew. We are getting towards the end. There's only one more episode to go after this episode. So the season finale coming, well, at the time that we're recording this, coming this week. So we will be recording another episode very, very shortly. Before we do get into this episode, I mean, I don't know if I should still call you Aka or if I should just go back to Jeff. I feel like Aka is more appropriate now.
I'm good with Aka. Aka's
You
good.
good with Aka?
Absolutely.
How you doing?
I'm well. I am. Yeah, it's been an interesting week for TV. Interesting. We had the end of Secret Invasion. If you haven't watched our after show for Secret Invasion, please do so. We talk about all 6 episodes, as painful as it may be. No spoilers if you haven't watched Secret Invasion, but if you haven't watched it, maybe don't. Yeah, it's just not worth your time. But which just gives you a hint of what the after show about that particular show talks about. But this show has been fantastic. And you know what? I'm going to say it out loud because I'm about to be mean, but I'm not saying 9 wasn't fantastic. I will say, spoiler alert, by the way, guys. It wasn't.
Oh, yeah, guys, if you haven't watched this week's episode, or actually last week's episode of Star Trek Strange New Worlds, the musical, I forget what they called it now.
Subspace Rhapsody.
Go watch it because we will be spoiling stuff here. So be warned.
Yes.
Also, if you haven't subscribed to the Geeks and Company YouTube channel, please do so right now. You know, it takes a fraction of a second. It costs you how much, Jeff? A big fat zero.
Absolutely nothing.
And if you click the notification bell, it'll also make sure you get notified every time we upload a new video. Anytime we go live, for example, when we do our weekly live Geek Boutique podcast right here at 7 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube. So, yeah,
lad.
We would love it if you subscribed and followed us. It really helps us out. Now, episode 9.
Thematically, this season's been all over the place, which we've talked about before. It's episodic television. You're allowed to do that.
And
all the other
Treks
that were episodic have done that in the past. So the tone has been very uneven, and that's cool. So after episode 8, which was a very heavy ass episode, we get the entire crew being forced to sing based on, wait for it, an improbability field, which for all of my Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy fans out there, nice little nod for that. The infinite improbability drive is what drove the Heart of Gold in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. So that was a nice little nod. And from what I understand, there's at least one Buffy nod in there, which I think a lot of people that are longtime television fans really loved Buffy's take on a musical episode. There's a direct reference to that episode in this episode, but I'm going to say, guys, this episode was very well done. It's just not in my wheelhouse. It doesn't appeal to me. I don't enjoy musicals. And to me, that's sort of the crux of this particular episode is I feel like musicals are either love or hate. Like there's not a lot of people that are kind of like just mediocre or in the middle about musicals. Either you live for this shit or you can't stand it. And I am definitely in the latter category. What say you, JS? What was your reaction to?
So I am kind of in that middle ground, right? Where I don't go out of my way to go catch a musical, but I've seen some musicals, and there are some musicals that I loved. You know, Rock of Ages was amazing. That new Christmas one with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell. I forget what it's called now. But that was a fantastic movie as well. Great musical. The songs were amazing. For me, this episode, the main problem I have with this episode is that the musical was the gimmick. There was really no real actual story to this episode. It was just, how do we make a musical? Oh, this is how we make a musical.
Now, would you have preferred if they'd kind of gone the other way with it, where they actually had a plot and a story, and it just happened to be that they were singing their way through it, as opposed to making the plot device them being forced to sing based on the improbability field? Okay.
I think so, and mainly because, let's be honest, the songs weren't like you don't know the songs. It's not like you're going to sing along to the songs
they're
with
original
these guys,
songs.
right?
Right.
They're just singing their dialogue is what they're doing, right?
Yeah.
So that's where they lost me a little bit, right? Like, don't get me wrong, it was a fine episode. It was fun. There was one big thing that happened in this episode that we're probably going to talk a little bit later. That happened in the bar that apparently doesn't exist on the original Enterprise, but apparently they have a bar on this Enterprise. So who knows? But yeah, something of consequence actually happens in this episode. But yeah, it was one of those, like it was okay. But being that they're all just singing their dialogue, it doesn't make you want to sing along to it. It doesn't make you feel like you're part of it. It doesn't have that feeling of when I watch a musical and I'm totally into it. This is a musical with no real background story other than, oh, well, and then we're stuck singing songs. Oh, look, the Klingons are stuck singing songs. Oh, look. Sorry, Captain, the whole fleet is stuck singing songs. Like, okay. Like,
yeah, it definitely cranked up the silly factor. Although I do find a lot of these television shows that are musicals, like I said, I referenced the main influence for all of these, which is the Buffy one. Also, a plot device, a demon was making them all sing, and the songs were original songs. They were not borrowed or lifted or licensed songs. They were their own songs. So it's at least in keeping with other shows that have attempted this. But for me, yeah, the whole episode, it's just a very silly episode. Like there's one poignant, really poignant moment, and then there's another poignant moment that's made silly. The fact that, okay, so the one thing that we'll talk about obviously is that Chapel and Spock are no more. After only a couple of episodes, they are no more. And due to the nature of the plot, she breaks up with him in song, with backup singers and dancers in the middle of the bar. She dumps
with
him.
hundreds of people watching.
Yeah, she even calls him out. He's trying to trigger a song, and him and Uhura have figured out that it's high emotions that trigger the song. So he confronts her about the fact that she's told everybody, seemingly, and the entire bridge crew, hell, half the ship knows that she's gotten this fellowship, but she hasn't told him. And so he confronts her, and she literally says, "You're doing this in front of everybody." And he doesn't say, "I'm trying to elicit her emotional reaction to get the music started," because then the music starts anyways. And she has a whole song and dance routine. And I just like to point out, guys, this is going to sound very, very sexist, and I apologize, but honestly, this is such a tropey cliche. She chases him when he's unavailable for a season and a half. And then when she gets him 2 episodes later, she dumps him. By the way, for no real apparent reason. She's going in a 3-month fellowship. They're Starfleet officers. There's going to be times where there's going to look at the captain and Battelle. They're not on the same ship yet. They're still making a relationship work. So I don't know why this means. Well, I have a feeling I know why, because now that she has him, the challenge is over. She kind of doesn't want him anymore because the chase is over. So now that I've caught you, it's kind of getting old and boring for me. So I don't know. It seemed really, I don't love it. I get why they did it, because they both have to be free, because we've talked about this. Spock ends up with T'Pring, and Chapel ends up getting engaged to this Corby guy that she's going and doing this fellowship with. So we know that's going to happen, which, me ranting about prequels again, but the way it was done, why have her carry a torch for him for a season and a half only to shotgun the relationship in 3 episodes? Like, that just seems like a silly thing to do. Is this the event that you were talking about, or were you talking about the other event?
No, I was talking about this. Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like this is something that we're not done with. I think there's going to be repercussions to this. I think there's still going to be tension with them, and I think,
no doubt,
for me, if I were the director and writer of the show, and for me, if I were to do this, would be specifically to create that tension between the two, right? To make it a more interesting plot, because let's be honest, goofy Spock trying to smile. Remember the goofy Spock trying to be more, nicer.
I did like the contrast in those old scientists. I'm not going to lie. I liked it when he was trying to be a little bit more human, a little bit more emotional.
But, you knew that couldn't last, right? So,
because we know that's not the Spock we end up getting in TOS, which again is me ranting about prequels. Here's my question, though. Do we lose Christine? Is Jess Bush going to be off the show to signify this 3-month fellowship that she's going on?
I don't think so. I think what's going to happen is we're going to have the last episode, and then
That
when
will
it
happen off
restarts
camera kind of
again,
thing?
yeah, she'll be back from her.
Okay.
I think. I mean, I could be wrong, but
No. I
it'd
was
be dumb
merely
because
curious.
let's be honest, she's right now one of my favorite cast members.
She was right up
You
until
know?
this arc.
Yeah.
This arc I'm not a fan of, but everything else they've done with Jessica has been
Yeah. She's
fantastic.
been
But
amazing. So has Mbenga. I mean, fuck, they've all been good, right?
yeah, no,
The
for
only
sure
one
they've
we
all been good.
don't really hear from, and we only really rarely has even lines, is Mitchell. Right? Like, why is she like? What's the deal with her? Why are we not like? She's a bridge member. Like, she's on
Who?
the bridge. The Asian girl on the bridge. Her name is Mitchell, I believe.
Oh, okay. I get the sense that she's like the the first season TNG O'Brien kind of
Chief
thing, where
O'Brien style.
a little
Yeah.
bit, yeah. Like we're not really sure where she fits. She's not in the opening
Mhm.
credits, so she's obviously just
No.
like a recurring or whatever, or a guest starring or whatever. But next week we got a Gorn episode as the finale. We've seen the preview for it. We kind of called it. We knew it was going to be the Gorn. They've been building up the Gorn for the last 2 seasons.
And we were right. That scene we saw in the trailer, we saw it again in this episode's trailer. So we were right
Yes.
that it was the Gorn.
Definitely the Gorn.
And it was this episode, yeah.
So my biggest concern now is there's been so much focus paid to these ancillary cast members, and everybody's kind of had their moment to shine. Even though she had like a brief moment to shine in one of the episodes, I'm suddenly very fearful for Erica Ortegas. I'm calling it now. I think Captain Battelle is going to die. Of the Cayuga is going to die. Captain Pike's love interest is going to die in this next episode. However, if we lose a crew member this season, like we lost Hemmer last season, I have a nasty, nasty feeling in the pit of my stomach that the reason why maybe Erica Ortegas has not been brought to the forefront in some of these episodes, like the other cast members have, is because we're going to lose Erica Ortega. Like this last episode might be her episode to finally come forward, and then she dies. Because we know she's not on the. I don't want to lose her. I think she's fantastic, but that's my off the wall. My solid prediction is Battelle. My off the wall prediction is Ortegas. However, let me talk about really quickly I felt the most poignant part of this episode, which was the only real confrontation between two people or conversation between two people that wasn't based on song, and that was Kirk and La'an finally got a chance to talk about sort of what happened, and she tells him flat out, "I have feelings for you. I've met an alternate version of you. You saw me as I truly am, and you're the only person I've ever been able to open up to on this level." And she gets really vulnerable with him, and he kind of plays it coy at first. He was like, "Do you feel that way about me, even though you know I'm not that Kirk?" And she's like, "Yeah, I kind of do. Like, I would like to." And then he drops an amazing reference bombshell. Who does he reference, JS, when he tells her?
So, first of all, he already lets us know that he's already with, I forget her name, Carol Marcus. Is that her name?
Yes!
So he's already with Carol Marcus.
That's right.
And he knows she's pregnant.
She's pregnant. So for the uninitiated.
My question is, I thought Kirk didn't know.
Hold on. Let's make sure. So in Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, we meet Carol and David Marcus. They're the makers of the Genesis device. And we find out that Carol Marcus and Kirk had a thing at one point. And then we later learn in Star Trek II that David Marcus is in fact Kirk's son. Now, at one point in Star Trek II, which I've now seen 8 million times, he does act like David attacks him and they fight. And then Carol's like, "Stop it." And then she refers to him as David, and Kirk goes, "David?" He knows the name David in Star Trek II.
Okay.
So my assumption is he knows. And because she, by the way, later on, him and Carol are having a conversation, I think in the Genesis cave, and he's like, "You wanted me to stay away, so I did. I stayed away from you and him." Okay. And she's like, "Well, I wanted him to go up in my world and not yours." So yes, he knew that David existed, but he had almost no contact with him based on Carol's wishes.
I need to rewatch all of that because in my mind, I was shocked when he brought that out, because in my mind, for some weird reason, Kirk didn't know that he had a son.
No,
right?
He absolutely did.
He didn't know Carol got pregnant. And in my mind, she left him when she was pregnant.
I got
Or is that what happened in the Kelvin shows?
Well, in Kelvin, Alice Eve is the one that plays.
Yeah.
Carol Marcus, and we meet her father, who's played by Peter Weller in Into Darkness. That's so I don't get the sense. I don't think we even talk about Carol Marcus in Star Trek Beyond in the movie that followed. So I don't know that I don't think the Kelvin universe really explores the Carol Kirk thing other than jamming Alice Eve into a black underwear set and putting her on camera and having everybody freak out when that happened. But
anyway, I don't want to go down that path.
No, but you understand what I'm saying. But in this, I thought that was a really solid. First of all, how weird was it to Kirk?
Well, that crushed her, right?
Yeah, but for James Tiberius Kirk to tell a woman, an attractive woman who's clearly coming on to him, I'm sorry, I'm in a relationship. That's never happened before in the history of Star Trek. And then to drop this bomb, like her name is Carol and she's pregnant. Man, oh man, like it's a handful of the fandom that's going to get it, but that handful is like, I'm like, this is my favorite part of this episode. And they weren't singing it. They must have known that La'an's character needed this for that final bit of growth, and to have it be in some sing-song bullshit wouldn't have been as, I'm sorry guys, I don't mean to dump on the song aspect of it, but it was just so silly and over the top and everything else. The Klingons, I mean, again with the
Klingons that go into a friggin' like Backstreet Boys.
No. Like, it's even worse than that. Do you know what they're actually doing with the Klingons? It's K-pop.
Okay. Well,
because they're Klingons. K for Klingons, K-pop. That's what they modeled the Klingons after. Not Klingon opera, which we thought we'd get. Everybody on planet Earth thought we'd get some Klingon opera. No. We get Klingons doing K-pop. It's rough, buddy. It's yes. This will never go down as my favorite episode. I'll fully admit there were parts of this episode that I muted. They would be halfway through a song. I would realize the song was going to go on. By the way, this episode's over an hour long too. This is a long episode.
I was just going to say. So this was the first time since Star Trek Strange New World has started that I sat down to watch an episode and I was looking at my watch thinking, is this episode going to end?
Yeah. This episode was, for me, way too long. And I understand why it had to be to fit all the songs in. When you're going to sing the entire dialogue, you've got to have some length to it. But like I think there's 10 songs.
Yeah. Now, I want to make sure everybody that's watching us keeps in mind that it's not because we didn't like this episode that it means that you don't have to like this episode. You can have loved this episode. Actually, if you did like this episode, please let us know. Write us a comment below. Let us know what you actually thought of the episode.
Yeah, I'm not clowning on anybody that loved it. If you loved it, that's fantastic. And I've seen people, it does seem to be a pretty divisive episode is what I'm seeing in a lot of the fan bases and stuff. It is either people absolutely loved it or they did not enjoy it at all. So I'm not seeing very many like middle of the road opinions on it, but it just, there's a certain demographic it was going after and I'm not part of that demographic. And that's, you know what? That's okay. I've said that since the beginning of the season. This show has taken some big swings. This was a huge swing. And I would probably call it a success because everybody's talking about it.
100%. It's definitely a success. You're right. Everybody's talking about it. The memes and the reels and the stories. And I mean, it's never fucking ending. Like for the last week, it's all I've been seeing everywhere.
Yeah.
A raging success. And even if that episode wasn't really my favorite, actually, I thought it was kind of weak because there was really no episode other, like I said, than the gimmick of singing.
Yes.
I still like that they do these things.
Yes. Same.
And I've been saying this since the beginning. Give us different things, right? If you're going to go down the route of doing an episodic type show, we damn well better get different types of show, right? I mean, that's the whole freaking point, right?
And kudos to these guys too, because in the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of episodes of Star Trek over the course of, I don't know how many years, they've never done a musical episode before. This is the first time they've done it. Not even Lower Decks. Like you'd think one of them would have done a musical episode by now, but no. So all the big swings they take, sometimes they hit for me like Those Old Scientists, and sometimes they don't, like Subspace Rhapsody. And it's different strokes for different folks. And I appreciate that they're trying to appeal to a broader audience.
I just want to say, and I don't want to harp on Those Old Scientists because that was last week, and that's fine. A buddy of mine who's not even a Trekkie, has been ranting and raving about it all week. I've now had to tell him, dude, there's 2 more episodes that have come out since. And he's still talking about those old scientists.
The crossover,
he fucking... And he doesn't even watch Lower Decks. He had no clue Lower Decks even existed before watching this episode.
Still loved it.
And he was like, he's like, my favorite episode of Star Trek ever.
I've seen that a lot. I've seen that a lot in reference to that episode. So, guys, we did do an after show for Those Old Scientists. Make sure you check that one out. We do talk about that one a lot. JS and I both loved it as well. I think you've summed it up pretty good, dude. Like they're trying different things, and we applaud them for it, man. That's what we wanted from this show. It is indeed strange new worlds. That's right in the title, man. That's what we wanted. That's what we're getting.
100%.
Kudos.
Yeah. And I'm all for it. Even if we're going to get episodes that I don't like. Overall, this season, there's been a couple episodes that I thought were weaker. Dude, I'm still freaking loving it. I still think it's one of, if not the best show on TV right now.
Yep.
I mean, again, I know we keep, at the beginning of the season, we kept comparing it to Picard because Picard was so good, but I'm still going to say it. As good as Picard was, this is still amazing, right? They're really knocking it out of the park. Like
they are. I can tell you that the audience, this is what I'm talking about. So the audience rating for Those Old Scientists on IMDb, which you can see there, Those Old Scientists 9.1, which puts it as one of the highest rated episodes of Star Trek, any Star Trek ever. Under the Cloak of War, 8.4. Currently, Subspace Rhapsody sits at 7.0, which would actually put it the lowest rated episode. Now, when I'm saying rated, I don't mean viewed. I mean on IMDb, that's an audience rating of the episode. It is sitting at the lowest rated episode of the season. And I don't think that's because it's the worst. I think it's because of exactly what we talked about. It's divisive in nature. People are either going to love it or hate it. And the people that hate it are obviously hating on it pretty harshly on IMDb as far as rating.
Yeah, I just wish they had a better fucking story, right? Like if the episode should have had a better...
An episode with 10 songs, for me, I don't know that there's a story that's gonna be compelling enough to get me to watch an hour and 10-minute episode with 10 songs in it. I don't know what story you could possibly put in there that would make that compelling enough for me. But at the end of the day, I'm almost glad it was just a silly nothing episode that nothing really happens in, because then I never have to watch it again.
Yeah, fair enough. Guys, again, if you watch this episode, whether you liked it or not, leave us a comment below. Let us know what you thought. Whether you liked it or not is important, because it lets us know, hey, we're on the ball or we're completely out to lunch, because, these old guys here tend to be out to lunch a lot, but
we are those old scientists.
We are those old scientists for sure. Big episode coming next week, the season finale. Like Jeff said, we do have the trailer that's out. The Gorn are going to be here.
Hey, speaking of big episodes, by the way,
Patel is dying next week.
I think
as
Patel's
far as Jeff is concerned.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. I think that's going to be it for this week. Thanks for watching. Make sure you stay geeky, and we'll see you next week for the season finale of Star Trek Changing Worlds. May the Force be with you.
No.
You sure?
Yes.